Success has a strange way of making us feel late. Not because we haven't accomplished anything, because someone else seems to have arrived first. You see classmates becoming executives, friends buying bigger houses, entrepreneurs celebrating another milestone. Every scroll through social media quietly asks the same question. Why am I still building while everyone else seems finished? For many men, that question becomes a private burden. They keep working, they pay the bills, they take care of their responsibilities. Yet somewhere underneath the routine lives a quiet fear that maybe they missed their moment. But what if the timeline you've been measuring yourself against was never designed for you? Psychology offers a different perspective. Some lives aren't delayed. They're developing. There are men who can't fully commit to a path that doesn't feel true. It isn't laziness, it isn't fear. And it certainly isn't a lack of ambition. It's something much deeper. These men can work hard, they can stay disciplined, they can sacrifice. But when they build a life that doesn't align with who they really are, something inside refuses to settle. From the outside, people see indecision. Inside, the experience feels completely different. Imagine trying to build a house on land that shifts beneath every step. You could build quickly, but every part of you knows the foundation won't hold. So you hesitate, you change direction, you leave jobs that look perfect to everyone else. You disappoint people who don't understand why you walked away from something so stable. The world often mistakes this for inconsistency. Sometimes it's actually honesty. Not honesty toward other people, honesty toward yourself. Carl Jung believed that becoming who you truly are is one of the longest psychological journeys a person can take. Trying to force an identity before it's fully formed doesn't create lasting success. It often creates a life that looks impressive while quietly feeling empty. Many men discover this too late. Others spend years searching before finally finding work, relationships, and purpose that actually fit. That search looks messy, but appearances can be misleading. The years people call wandering often become years of invisible construction. Think about what happens during those seasons. A project fails, a business closes, a relationship ends, a career path suddenly feels wrong. Each experience appears disconnected, yet your mind is learning something impossible to gain through easy success. Discernment. You begin noticing what actually matters. You stop chasing opportunities simply because they're available. Instead, you become more selective. That doesn't usually happen after everything goes according to plan. It happens after enough disappointment forces deeper questions. What kind of work actually gives me energy? What kind of life feels worth building? What am I trying to prove, and to whom? These questions rarely produce quick answers, but they produce something more valuable. Clarity. There's another psychological shift that happens during long periods of uncertainty. Most people assume confidence comes from repeated success. Often it comes from surviving repeated failure. Every setback quietly teaches your nervous system something important. I've been here before. I know uncertainty. I know disappointment, and I know I can survive both. That's a different kind of confidence. It's quieter, less impressive, far more durable. Men who develop this way often stop performing certainty. They don't rush decisions simply to appear decisive. They're willing to wait until something genuinely feels right. At 30, this can look like hesitation. At 50, it often looks like wisdom. Another change happens almost unnoticed. Many men become quieter. People assume they've lost ambition. Sometimes the opposite is true. When your attention shifts inward, there's less need to constantly explain yourself. You're no longer collecting approval. You're collecting understanding. The outside world may see someone who's standing still. Inside, beliefs are being dismantled. Values are being tested. Priorities are being rewritten. Identity is under construction. And identity work rarely produces dramatic headlines. One of the hardest parts of this journey is comparison. Every generation creates invisible deadlines. By 30, you should have this. By 40, you should own that. By 50, you should already be there. Those timelines feel objective. They aren't. They're social stories repeated often enough to sound like truth. The danger isn't falling behind someone else. The danger is abandoning your own direction simply to reduce the discomfort of comparison. Psychologists often describe this as living according to external validation instead of internal values. The first path earns applause. The second creates peace. Unfortunately, they don't always happen at the same time. This is where many late bloomers face their biggest challenge, not failure, interpretation. Two men can spend 10 years searching. One reaches middle age believing he wasted a decade. The other believes he spent 10 years discovering what truly mattered. The experiences are almost identical. The meaning is completely different. Our brains don't simply remember events. They organize them into stories. And those stories quietly shape our future behavior. If your story becomes, "I wasted my best years," your motivation slowly collapses. If your story becomes, "I was building something nobody could see yet," those same years become evidence of resilience rather than defeat. Neither story changes the past. One changes the future. Perhaps that's why many men become noticeably calmer later in life. Not because life becomes easier, because urgency slowly gives way to direction. The desperate need to prove yourself begins fading. Choices become cleaner. Relationships become healthier. Work becomes more intentional. Instead of asking, "How do I impress people?" the question becomes, "How do I build something that lasts?" That's a completely different mindset. Ironically, many people finally recognize these men just as they stop needing recognition. Their confidence feels different. It isn't loud. It doesn't need constant reassurance. It comes from years spent confronting uncertainty instead of avoiding it. Psychological maturity often looks less like becoming fearless and more like becoming difficult to shake. Storms still arrive. Disappointment still happens. But your identity no longer collapses every time circumstances change. You've tested it. Repeatedly. That stability can't be purchased. It has to be lived. If you're in the middle of that long season right now, remember something important. Invisible progress is still progress. Roots grow long before branches appear. The strongest foundations are usually built where nobody is watching. That doesn't make the waiting enjoyable. Loneliness still hurts, comparison still whispers, doubt still visits. But none of those experiences automatically mean you're moving in the wrong direction. Sometimes they simply mean you're building slower than the world rewards, but exactly as fast as your life requires. One day people may call your success sudden. They'll notice the business, the career, the wisdom, the leadership. What they won't see are the years spent questioning everything. The quiet mornings filled with uncertainty. The difficult decisions no one applauded. The opportunities you walked away from. The failures that quietly strengthened your judgment. They'll see the tree. You'll remember the roots. Maybe success isn't arriving before everyone else. Maybe success is reaching a place where your outer life finally matches the person you've slowly become inside. That kind of success rarely appears overnight. It matures, just like the men who eventually grow into it. So if you've been carrying the feeling that you're somehow late, consider another possibility. You may not be behind. You may simply be building something that requires more time because it's meant to last longer. And if that's true, then the years you've spent searching weren't empty at all. They were shaping the man who will eventually be strong enough to carry what comes next. If this perspective resonated with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might be exactly what another man needs to hear today. And if you enjoy psychology-based insights about purpose, identity, and personal growth, subscribe for more conversations that explore the hidden patterns shaping our lives.